Hello, everyone, and welcome to Poetry Street. Yes, and thank you and welcome everyone on Zoom. Okay, we'll start with our land welcoming. In Native American tradition, a land welcoming is offered to recognize the original owners of the land in which we stand. New York City and Long Island has been the gathering and trading places for many of the indigenous people. Poetry Street and our work in Riverhead and other areas of Long Island is situated on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Lenape, who are the original caretakers. Also, the Canarsie, the Shinnecock, the Montaukett, the Reckonwalk, the Maasai, and the Haudenosaunee. We acknowledge we are guests here on this land and respect the many indigenous people who live on this land and continue to make ongoing contributions. Once again, welcome to Poetry Street. Thank you. Thank you. Carter G. Woodson was born in 1875 in New Canton, Virginia, to formerly enslaved parents. Growing up in the segregated society, Woodson faced numerous challenges accessing education. Against all odds, he became a learned scholar, a renowned author, and a staunch representative of the civil rights movement. Dr. Woodson dedicated his life to documenting and promoting the achievements and contributions of African Americans throughout history. In addition, he sought to combat racial prejudice and discrimination through education and awareness. He recognized the importance of making Black history accessible to every community. In 1926, he founded Negro History Week, which later evolved into Black History Month. Today, many of us still seek to know from whence we came, and now more than ever, we must acknowledge and embrace our own power, the power of our ancestors, whose rich blood still runs freely in our veins. Now more than ever, we must tell and share our own stories. Happy Black History Month. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please show your love to my co-host, Emmy Award recipient, actor, playwright, and distinguished author of several books and publications, including a book I keep on my dresser, Sleepless Nights, Poems by Maggie Bloomfield. Ladies and gentlemen, Maggie Bloomfield.
Thank you, Chip. Welcome, everybody, to Black History Month. Welcome to Poetry Street here at the Riverhead Library. First, I want to thank the library for hosting us. And I would like to start in honor of Black History Month with a poem called Frederick Douglass by Robert Hayden. When it is finally ours, this freedom, this liberty, this beautiful and terrible thing, needful to man as air, usable as earth, when it belongs at last to all, when it is truly instinct, brain matter, diastole, systole, reflex action, when it is finally one, when it is more than the gaudy mumbo jumbo of politicians, this man, this Douglass, this former slave, this Negro beaten to his knees, exiled, visioning a world where none is lonely, none haunted, alien. This man, superb in love and logic, this man shall be remembered. Oh, not with statues, rhetoric, not with legends and poems and wreaths of bronze alone, but with the lives grown out of his life, the lives fleshing his dream of the beautiful, needful thing. So Poetry Street was founded 10 years ago by Susan Dingle and our own Bubby Brown, who's with us today. 10 years we've been going. It's very exciting. We started at the Blue Duck Bakery down the street, which unfortunately closed. We moved around a little, COVID struck, and then the library invited us here, and we are thrilled to make this library our home. I'm going to introduce our wonderful features today, but first I want to welcome the Zoom people, of course, and everybody here, and invite you all to sign up for the open mic. I also want to encourage you to write a sentence on a little piece of paper on that table and put it in the jar for the community poem. What happens is I take those little papers home and put them together and make a little poem. And if you want to hear your line, you have to come back the next month. That's funny. So this month's poem is, what does it mean to be liberal anymore? Alas, alas, this too shall pass. Fear cannot win, so put your boots on. Luck is when opportunity meets with preparation. Words weave emotions into a multicolored mosaic, and so we come full circle, writing in action. So I'm about to introduce our features. I want to let you know that here at Poetry Street, we encourage people to read. Whoops, that's the wrong one. To read, even if you've never read before. A lot of people have started performing right here at this podium. So we encourage you to sign up for the open mic and read something by you or by somebody else. We'll go over the rules for the open mic later. Right now, I am going to introduce our first feature. Anthony Policano is an Italian-American poet and photographer born in Brooklyn and raised in Queens and Long Island. His writing is inspired by music, romance, movies, good coffee, bad dreams, art, religion, surrealism, travel, la familia, his upbringing, his conscience, and what comes next. He has featured in Long Island poetry venues. Anthony's first book of poetry is Before the Birth of Cool, which I think he's going to read from today. It was put out by Words with Wings Publishers in 2024. Please help me welcome Anthony Policano. Make a lot of noise.
Yay.
Let me see if- Okay.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Chip, for inviting me. This is really nice space, really nice space. Thank everyone being here. Thank everyone out there in Zoom land for tuning in. And I'm going to start reading my first book of poems, and I brought a list because I forgot like all the books at home because I'm not used to this. It's my first book. But anyway, this is the book, and it's called Before the Birth of Cool. And if you like a copy, just send me an email and I would be happy to, and with your address, obviously, and I'll be happy to send it to you, and no charge for postage. Okay, so with that, I'm going to read the first poem. My first poem tonight is Now, if Trump could do all the nonsense he's doing with renaming the Gulf of Mexico and wanting to make Canada our 51st state, and I don't think this is so outrageous what I'm proposing. The poem is called A New Mount Rushmore. We can't wait 2.4 million years for the wearing down of granite rock. Erosion's not the answer. No, let's make an explosion. Detonate the faces. Do away with the dead presidents, with the exception perhaps of Lincoln, who looks as lonely as a log cabin yearning for conversation. But George, Thomas, and Theodore, you look imperially, stoically, majestic, but enough is enough. Now, if, and only if the Lakota Sioux people would agree, I think America could use a new Mount Rushmore, a more compassionate face up there, like Fred's. Yes, Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers, to us adults who as children needed to know that quiet talk and listening are more important than canned laughter, and that friendship requires being a friend. And cardigan sweaters are necessary to maintain our internal body temperatures, and shoelaces need to be tied and untied every day with fascination and attention. Oh, Fred. Oh, Mr. Rogers, why not you up there in the Black Hills of South Dakota, smiling your kindly smile, your blue hazel eyes like stars beaming into the living room of unspoiled Dakota wilderness, welcoming one and all into the unsegregated neighborhood of emotional intelligence and superlative manners. Your face, a monument to self-esteem and acceptance of others, reminding us to answer the front doorbell as soon as it rings and to graciously invite into our hearts the vast and precious heartland of childhood wonder. Thank you.
Be my neighbor?
Absolutely. The next poem. So the next two poems are I'm going to read for Black History Month. They're about two Black celebrities from the 50s that I admire. And, you know, we have to kind of highlight, can't forget how society treated, and it still does to a certain extent, but the, you know, Jim Crow laws and everything back then. So first is called Sammy Went Swimming. Las Vegas blasts its desert sun on a textured concrete pool deck, on a lounge chair draped with a velour robe, on sunglasses, cigarettes, and sandals left behind, on every nearby chair intentionally vacant. He hot cold walked to the pool edge. Some say he bojangled, some say he strutted to the deep end, then dipped one foot, then the other, and stood for half a minute, flashing a winner's grin with his boxer's nose and Pharaoh's chin, Mount Rushmore forehead rising between arms outstretched into the translucence. He dives, underwater glides, does a quick breaststroke, then up for air. Head of groomed black hair, breaking surface, and then the eyes, one good, one glass, squinting and smiling in sunny Vegas. Floating on his back, Sammy Davis Jr., inviting the world to jump in and relax at the New Frontier Hotel and Casino pool. His joyful solitude, contagious. And the hotel guests, deep-seated in lounge chairs, basking in an American landscape of Jim Crow racist segregation, they worried about contamination. It was a perfect afternoon, ruined by a Negro entertainer thinking he was hot stuff. You know, when they told the hotel manager he couldn't drain that pool fast enough.
Wow.
Hurts to read that. I mean, it does. It's, yeah. The next one is, it's on the sheet. It's not in the book. I love Billie Holiday, one of the greatest the greatest jazz female vocalist ever, at least my favorite. There is another poem about Billie Holiday, a tribute poem in here, but I'm going to read this one. It's called The United States of America versus Billie Holiday. Everybody wants to be loved, and everybody loved just wants to be themselves without being shat upon, like at the trial of an American icon, Lady Day. A rabid dog will bite the stocking leg of beauty because it can smell vulnerability, because of its own fear and insecurity, because it can, it will. Marijuana slows down your sense of time, the man dead to his own senses argues. This is why your jazz music sounds so, well, freakish. That crazy bird Parker and Dizzy always flying high, that no saint among us monk, all that bebop bullshit, you know, that funny reefer man, anytime he gets a notion he can walk right across the ocean, and on heroin he'll roll around heaven all day. And that's what they called it, the United States of America versus Billie Holiday, like a lopsided prize fight promoted at the Garden. She was targeted, hunted, framed, and busted for being a druggie, or was it for daring to sing about white oppression and hatred in a song so bitter it oozed, blood on the leaves and blood at the root? A stain on society's conscience no scrubbing will undo. I don't know. Maybe her counsel advised her to show emotion, but Billie refused to weep on the stand. She asked to be sent to a hospital where she could kick the habit and get well. Instead, was given a 1-year sentence, forced to go with cold turkey in a West Virginia prison, to work in a pigsty. I mean, really, in a pigsty, didn't sing a single note behind bars. When released as a former convict, she was stripped of her cabaret license, her sole income. Listening to her might harm the morals of the public, Harry Anslinger, newly appointed head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, proclaimed he had an axe he sharpened and let fall on anyone his racial bigotry named. Judy Garland, a heroin addict, was called by Anslinger to his office. After a friendly chat, he advised Judy to take longer vacations between pictures. Then hand wrote a letter to her studio assuring she had no drug problem at all. Given the opportunity, a rabid dog will bite the stocking leg of beauty because it can smell vulnerability, because of its own fear and insecurity, because it can, it will. Change the pace up a little bit here with it's also it's a music inspired poem, Bossa Nova. Morning Bossa Nova. He just wanted to kiss you. In your hurry, you found your sunflower umbrella and keys, then turned towards the front door. In his mind, his lips nearly grazed your cheek. In your haste to leave for work, you didn't see him smile. Maybe you didn't notice. But a bossa nova was playing in his mind, in the kitchen. Astro Gilberto was singing, because love is the saddest thing when it goes away. In his mind, her voice on the radio was a melancholy whisper. Sadoji, the most difficult word to translate. In his mind, he needed to write this down quickly, even though who has the time to read these days? Msuamenchi, in his mind, he combed back his slick black Brazilian hair, straight and wet as a horse's mane, and strummed a nylon string guitar, warm as summer sand in his hands. In his mind, a metronome of just starting to fall raindrops on the skylight kept tempo, as relaxed as an ocean breeze that's come to flirt with the skirt of the girl from Ipanema as she passes, as she always passes. In his mind, he smiles but she doesn't see. She just doesn't see. And for my last poem, it's in the book. This is a kind of a bromance poem. I'm a big paddleball player, played my whole life, and you know, basically paddleball is like handball, only with a paddle. It's a faster ball. And it's a bromance poem in a sense. We have a big group of people, so we kind of text each other. Paddleball morning group text. Ron's morning text reads, quote of the day, "The body isn't lazy, the mind is." Aldo responds, "We must use our muscles to control the defeatism of the brain." And he follows this by a two-fingered peace hand emoji, followed by a purple and yellow peace sign emoji, followed by another text, followed by a dove holding an olive branch emoji, followed by another text in caps that reads, "ice cream," because Aldo never curses on the paddleball courts, but yells, "I love ice cream," instead. Being his partner in a game is a calming experience. Like last Friday, in the middle of a heated, close match, as I was about to serve, he turns to me and says, "Let your inner child come out and play." Aldo, who is younger than me by a decade. Aldo, who is shorter than me by maybe 8 inches. Aldo, whose hair is longer than mine was in the 70s. Aldo, as relaxed as a yoga instructor tells me to, breathe. And so I breathe in slowly, exhale slowly, and serve the hardest angled overhead serve of my life, acing my backcourt opponent. We tied the game, and I serve again, and the ball returned, whizzes past, rebounds off the wall to my left, and I'm twisted like an Utz pretzel as I swing, setting the ball over the wall, and I utter something profane as Aldo, wise man from Maspeth, Stratocaster guitarist, 9-to-5 jeweler, paddleball player extraordinaire, cool cosmic court partner, gently responds, "That's okay. It's okay." And I can't even recall if we won, but I'll call it a win on this page and send to you a two-fingered victory / peace sign emoji, followed by a pigeon emoji, substituting for the dove emoji I couldn't find. Followed by an ice cream cone emoji. The cold vanilla sweetness chilling the frustration of taking the game too seriously. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Oh, my goodness. Let's hear it for Anthony Policano. And I'm going to invite Anthony and the other 2 features to come back after the open mic and do one more poem as an encore. I know you have another poem, Tony. You got a book. Yeah, you got a book. Yes. Sign up for his book, everyone.
Yeah,
Everyone, sign up for Anthony's book.
Let me know and I'll mail you a copy. I'll charge the postage.
Okay, our next feature, Diane, and she's on Zoom. There she is. She's beautiful. Diane Murray Ward is a New Yorker of West Indian heritage. Diane is a poet, book reviewer, workshop instructor, former modern jazz dancer, teacher, and Blog Talk radio host. She performs at international and national open mics, and her anthologized work includes topics such as Fixed and Free, Love Letters to Chia, Bronx Memoir Project, Moonstone, American Graveyard Calls to End Gun Violence, and Unsettled, published 2024. Diane performs annually on the National Writers Union stage and at the New York City Poetry Festival on Governor's Island. She can be found on the Tesoro Gallery site. Please help me welcome Diane Murray Ward.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. And thank you, Anthony. I rearranged some of my work around what you were doing. This is titled Red. I really don't feel like taking this darn basket through the woods. It's cold. The wind is cutting through my red bomber jacket, and these open-toe sandals were a mistake. What was I thinking? What the heck is in this basket anyway? Who puts this much caviar, 2 jars of pearl onions, a wheel of cheese, crackers, anchovies, a bottle of Merlot, a jar of dill pickle spears, and a tin of mixed nuts in one basket? What do I look like? A weightlifter? Delivering this is going to take me forever. I heard rumors. This is why I deal with those wolves in town, especially the tall, toothful one who's always grinning when I pass by. I overheard him tell his pack, she's got some grandma. Wow, that calendar she did highlighting her different moods each month was something else. He told them, I'm still on November. Why did I hook Grandma up to Zoom? DMW. Sometimes you have to put a little humor. Sometimes you have to put a little humor. When we talk about childhood, this is nonfiction because I am history. We're all history. The substitute teacher. Instead of following our regular class routine, because our teacher gave homework we were supposed to submit and review, this substitute teacher always decided to substitute assignments with his own ideas. For some reason that day, this class period was held in the auditorium. Maybe we were going to have an assembly rehearsal or fire drill later. Our class of elementary school seniors sat way in the back, while younger grades were located closer to the auditorium stage. Yes. The substitute teacher was different in the way he talked and walked, too. He was always a character. The only man who wore a hat all the time in the school building. I thought only military could do that, and they usually took their hats off too. He was never as neatly dressed as our regular teachers. He seemed fake. He wore plaid shirts and usually a handkerchief like a short scarf bandana around his neck. He was skinny and was always fidgeting. He always seemed to make a point of having eye contact with me. There was something about him that made me a little nervous, not afraid, but just something off about him. My young, burgeoning mother sense, I didn't know what to call it, was an inner voice inside of me saying, watch him carefully. Don't go anywhere alone with him. Sensibility that had arisen. Because we were competing with the auditorium echo of other classes and my class size covered a few rows, he stood up and with a wide-toothed smile said, for today's class, wouldn't it be fun if we pretended that we were living in the early 1800s? He was shaking his head affirmatively, waving his hands upward, trying to get us excited. I raised my hand, stood up, and said, no, why would I want to live back then? Then I'd be a slave. Why would I want to do that? I briefly glanced at the other Black kids in my class. They just stared at me. I didn't bother with the rest of the class. I then looked back at him. I thought to myself, what were 11-year-old slaves made to do back then? We had an eye pupil from student to teacher stare down. He shot me a bullet to the head look. He looked as if he envisioned strangling me. The class was quiet. I was dealing with this, the substitute teacher. If he sent me to the principal's office, I would have said, I'm not playing slave and master. He stood immobilized. His grin was replaced with a pencil-thin line. His eyes were cold, and I did not flinch. He was mad, but he didn't dare touch me. He looked as if he wanted to slap me. There were many kids sitting far enough between us that I could get away if I had to. I had a plan if he grabbed me, bite and kick. Mom Dad would understand. Bite and kick. He walked away. Maybe he told the teacher he wasn't feeling well and left. He didn't substitute for my class again, although I saw him substitute other classes. And because our eyes met again, he just kept on walking. I got the impression that we knew each other in another life and that he beat me then and was going to reinforce it now. I wasn't the master ever. He wanted to reinforce his place, and I rebelled back then, too. I apparently still to this day haven't learned his ways and my place in this century. I felt like I ran away back then, and he was still angry about it. BMW.
Hey, Diane. Hey, Diane, if you could, your video is freezing. Your audio is great, but your video is freezing. Can you find another spot that's closer to your Wi-Fi? Because your video is freezing.
Looks okay on Zoom.
Oh, it does? Okay, thank you.
Okay. This piece, the Pieta twice beheld her. And this is in homage, just a short poem for a woman, a wonderful Black woman. She was once my assistant. She had two beautiful boys, and she taught them that if you're ever in a controversy, if you're ever in a setting where there is an argument, try to be the peacemakers. Try to be the ones that put some calm, some peace, some distance. Let's talk it out. And they were both killed, innocents, in two separate instances, in two separate situations. These were the two boys that were trying to bring peace to a situation, and they were murdered.
Mm.
The Pieta twice beheld her. The Pieta twice beheld her in its marble grasp. Taken from her breast and thigh, beheld them both in mind and spirit, both too young to recognize the legacy they left behind to mother, friend, relative, and child. Friends of the family may arise and linger but for a while. Through seasons that never changes, for both lives beheld their mother sainted. She drew them both and gave them hope in a world devoid of a lasting scope. Bearing ever that pyre of burning desire to hold and hear them again. Release, release, and teach us, my dear, for you of his greatest makes you revered. BMW. Thank you. You keeping track of my time? Have I used my 12 minutes?
So you can do one more.
Claire? One more? Okay. I'm going to do one more. This is called Concert. I worked at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City in the spiritual care office. Defined as silent space walls, in reality, this partitioned area serves as an echo chamber, recalling whispers. Whispered admonishments, tears, appeals, promises, prayers, and more appeals, reverberating in many faiths, promises occasionally kept. Reverence sometimes comes from silences, telepathic musings, aura connections, electricity, and mantra-driven quiet. In such a place, you remember inner thoughts. Allowing quiet reawakens these strengths. Man-made screens and multi-purpose spaces jumpstart a level of privacy for the mind and the eye without blocking pathways to an intended receiver. This area provides reflection and calm without judgment. Souls and spirits hover in this area. It's a welcoming respite from hospital corridors. Hospital corridors can become busy avenues, trafficking incessantly both the newborn and the lifeless. Hospital corridors carry balloons, these flouncing mini floats to celebrate birthdays, applaud tests, affirming improvements, and sometimes for the presumed final viewing of a usually faithful parade fan. For modesty, screens block patients' partial nudity from unintentional eyes or from procedures only staff should know are occurring. Screens temporarily partition and exude. However, any form can be carried away. We can be carried away by unexpected encounters. He sang from his tenor, from his inner tenor, and I from my inner mezzo soprano. For the sake of his glorious passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. The Divine Mercy Chaplet at 1 p.m. I sang monthly within Mount Sinai's Chapel, New York City. Medical staff would come during their break to recharge, commit to a brief shut-eye, contemplate their day, pray, sit. Honestly, they were always on duty. Sitting is a verb, slumping is less an active verb, and lying down without snoring, lesser an active sport. Anyway, sometimes staffers would come in, Oftentimes I'd be almost alone with my intentions and hopes for my patients. My dearly departed friend Faye smiled every time I sang. This particular afternoon, I was not physically alone. We were screen separated, which his voice and mine ignored. His voice in Arabic prayer, mine in English prayer. I didn't require translation because I knew his lingering notes were heartfelt and genuine. I sensed he felt that way about my part of our duet. Unrehearsed, there was neither interruption nor intermission. The room hummed. My unknown prayer mate gifted me with a beautiful memory. I hope he left our concert with the same complimentary spirit. DMW. Thank you.
Oh, Diane, that was gorgeous. Let's hear it for Diane. What wonderful features we have today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think this last poet really needs an introduction, but I will give him one anyway. His name is Chip Williford. And he is a co-host of Poetry Street and our technical director. He is a prose, poetry, and short story writer. He's a passionate equal rights advocate, activist, filmmaker, documentarian, family historian, good listener, and reliable storyteller. He's published in a whole bunch of magazines that you can read about on Flyer. And today, I am very honored and proud to introduce you to Chip Williford.
Wow, this is really something. I'm just so happy to be here with Anthony and with you, Diane. I really appreciate your work and your work as well, Anthony. I'm so happy to be here. I am Chip Williford. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am the son of Juanita and Andrew, grandson of Mary Ellen, Arthur, James, and Annie, great-grandson of Zimmer, Bill, Ella, Sam, and Eugenia, Wasi, and Frank, great-great-grandson of Peter, Diana, James, Jane, Margaret, and Jerry, William, Ellen, Roxy, William, Julia, and Peter, great-great-great-grandson of Clem and Jency. The blood that runs freely in my veins also ran through the veins of my ancestors, who are the people from Yoruba, the Hausa people in Nigeria, the Cameroon, Congo, and the Southern Bantu people. I am Black history. The poem I'm about to read was featured in the Sailor's Review. It's a wonderful magazine, stunning magazine out of Zimbabwe. Along with the article, it was like 9 pages. I was overwhelmed. Idea of America. Looking back and knowing where we've come from, and all the obstacles that have been placed in our way, the hangings, the torture, even the many mysterious killings of some, makes me wonder how I'm even alive, sane, and here today. I will not be quiet, nor would I forget the stories my parents and grandparents told about the many sacrifices our ancestors made, not that long ago, when they were captured, chained, shackled together, and shipped across the ocean far away in a stockade. Even if they try to silence me by cutting off my tongue and ears, my eyes will always tell stories of their oppressors' fears. our stories and our fears. Like the fear of being stripped down naked, tied while stinging lashes thrust upon our rears, while questioning the existence of God ever being there, and making us pray that God was here and wishing that this old life's end was near. We are the proud descendants of those who were treated worse than barren dirt. Our fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers were beaten, bought, sold, rented, and traded. No words could ever excuse our hurt. Everything about us, they told us, was hated. Slave owners didn't care about separating an African man from his family. They were only concerned with their own satisfaction, status, and wealth. To them, we were all just a commodity. They didn't give a damn how we felt. I will not be quiet, get over it, nor will I forget. That's right. As long as I can still remember, and as long as I have breath, I will tell our stories. My great-grandfather's father, Peter, was born enslaved. With a value of $538, he was appraised, listed Negro boy as chattel property, right there in the inventory sheet of slave owner Allen T. Overby. 1859, recently deceased, then bequeathed it to another slave owner. I shame more by not mentioning the name to whom he was released. At the very early age of 7, Peter was separated from his family, peeled and ripped from the loving arms of his weeping mother, Jency, actually. Snatched, shirt soaking wet with the tears of his brothers. Frank was 4 and 2-year-old Joe. Did Peter ever see his family again? It hurts to say. I still don't know. Slavery, a poison heirloom, passed down from one generation to the next generation. Beginning at birth, they lived an entire life, most times with little or no hope or all in sight. America, words are inadequate to describe or excuse our hurt, no matter what they say, feel, or don't say about slavery. It just wasn't right. I will continue to tell our stories. I will not forget. With wide eyes, filled with festering hatred, coming from all directions, closely gathered, did they band by the blazing dirt with babies in their arms and youngins held tightly by the hand, screaming and yelling, "Nigger," as they dragged me by my feet, delivering my reckoning while still I weep. And as she was forced to spread her young trembling legs as we cried, pleaded and begged as we bled. Fire burns high rapidly, loudly when generously kindled with seasoned timber of hate. No one escaped unscathed. There was no place to run. There was no place to hide. There was no place sacred. No place was safe. A crack to the head, face, neck, leg, back, and knee to the young Black men, women, and kids. Repeatedly did those with billy clubs hit, boastfully grinning and shouting, "Get those niggers," as the pack of growling dogs viciously bit. Knocked down, harshly brushed and crushed by the velocity of the fireman water hose aim, tarred and feathered, paraded the mott, tightly weighed down by yet another heavy chain. What a damn shame. They raped our precious little girls, hung our boys without consequences, took whatever they wanted and destroyed our businesses, burned crosses, bombed our churches, arrested our ministers and leaders. To them, we weren't really human. We were only niggers. Yet, still, there's time to start healing from the scars of history, but by first telling the truth. Yes, the truth, the reality. This nation The land of the free was formed, founded, and is still been governed with ideology embedded in racism, sexism, and other cruel and inhumane atrocities. You see, Native American genocide and slavery are just two of the many deep scars in America's history, doused in blood and tears, which evokes painful memories with significance too important not to hear. America, will you ever learn from the scars of history? Led by he who lies so blatantly, here we are in the 21st century, infected with COVID, racism, and the insurgency of our capital threatening our democracy. While evil, unjust people in the highest office remain, we will all be limited as to what we can gain. And again today, Black people and people of color are the ones left in the most immeasurable pain. Sure, we can always hope for a better future as no one really knows what tomorrow will hold. But I won't fool myself into thinking that after generations of hatred, they'll break their racist mode. But for how long will we have to live and fight those who think they're better than us because their skin is white? Will it ever end? Or must we all die before God pays attention to our desperate cry? I hate the thought of being shot down because of the color of my skin, but I will always remember. No, unfortunately, I'm constantly reminded when I walk out the door. That's the hard reality all Black men, women, and children are in. America, will you please learn from our horrid past and not lose sight? Any action fueled with hate, homophobia, sexism, racism, or the myth of white supremacy ideology just isn't right. Denying basic needs, treating people inhumanely, making and enforcing laws and degrading structural systems designed to disproportionately displace and keep Black people and people of color down, in prison, disenfranchised, depressed, oppressed, and killing our Black men, women, and children while no one is being held accountable just isn't right. Please, please learn. And let's heal from the scars of history. America, please don't lose sight. Based on the notion, if this idea of America truly being the great nation, the land of the free, then liberty, justice, and equality must be inclusive, including people who look like me. The time is now. We must speak out, show up, and in the midterm elections, vote. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, Under the Soul. My next poem. I get tired of looking up only to see the dirt on the soul that's constantly pressing me down. No doubt, with all my might, I will, no matter what, continue to fight and most likely cry. I know y'all questioning, well, tradition, honor, bravery, strength, the pledge, and oath, duty, and finally the cliche. I shouldn't complain, cause yes, I do know there's always someone, somewhere worse off than I. But truthfully, nonetheless, here I am barely lifting that dirty soul just so I can breathe while hoping and praying that one day soon I'll be able to squeeze out from under the heavy foot of this incarcerated sorrow. I swear if I don't make it out today, I'll try even harder tomorrow. You see, I can't give up, and I won't give in as long as I have one breath of air. I don't care how bad it appears, for in my soul, I know they, meaning the source, the power, the glory and light within, can't or won't put more on me than I could bear. I believe God's love and strength I receive and clutch to my bosom with all my weary might. Locked within my soul, I rest and trust that the gift of his spirit will sustain me tonight. In the morning, I will offer thanks to God again and again for giving me another day. And I know with them, I'll lift from under that dirty soul and finally slip away. Thank you. The next poem was the first poem that was published in the Sailor's Review, issue 59, I believe. It's entitled To My Siblings. When the moon shines through the evening darkness and the air hits heavy, even on the thickest layer of my skin, awakening my heart that beats rapidly within my chest, I am reminded that I am alive. As tears trail down my face, I remember the smiles and laughter of happier times when Dad would take us in his arms and make us feel that everything was all right. God, I wish he was still here, alive and well with us tonight as we look out at this beautiful moon shining so bright. Do you wonder about tomorrow, or do you smile in gratitude of today? I like to think in times like this that tomorrow I'll still be here, but the truth is I don't know when I too shall depart. So tonight I will enjoy the moon as it awakens my consciousness and warms my heart, acknowledging every moment matters most. And I would like to finish with a new perspective. Look, some people may think or even say I'm in the last prime of my life, but today I intend to prove them all wrong. In fact, I plan to have a ball. I will run barefoot on the grass with my hose pointed up in the air. And as the water rains, I will look for the rainbow. Thank you. Thank you.
Chip Williford, ladies and gentlemen. That was just gorgeous. Let's hear it again for our wonderful, wonderful speakers. What a powerful afternoon. We're going to go into the open mic now, and we will start with in this room. We will start. Well, how many readers do you have, Claire?
We have 6 or maybe 7 today.
Okay, so we'll start with 3 people from the room, and then we'll move to Claire. So first up is our resident busker, Warren McKnight.
Okay, let me get right to the point. It fits exactly into Black History Month. The reason why I've been successful as a banjo busker for 50 years is because of the African-American people. Very simple. I played a banjo. You can't play a sad song on a banjo. The African-American people took a barrel hoop, animal skin, a long neck without frets, catgut strings, intestinal strings, and made a wonderful instrument. And that instrument, against all odds, cuts through. Just like the African-American people, the more they were oppressed, the stronger their souls and spirit. And today, I invite anybody tomorrow morning to go by an African-American church, and you will hear that spirit rock that church with all the wonderful people. So, you know, I owe my success to the African-American people. And the banjo reaches to people with autism. It reaches to people who are deaf. It reaches to everyone. And I thank God for that. In the meantime, I'm going to read this one. I did some research about words. There are 170,000 words used today in the English language, approximately. Roger Kipling said, "Words are the most powerful drug used by mankind. Words, like eyeglasses, blur everything that they do not make clear. The limits of my words means the limits of my world. Words cannot make you feel bad, only you can. Once a word is let out of the cage, it cannot be whistled back in." And here's this one which is really not true. When I was a kid, "I am rubber, you're glue. Everything you say bounces off of me and sticks to you." You know. And then, of course, this is true too about words. "Sticks and stones can break my bones, but the right words can hurt us all, especially the ones we love. So remember that." Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "Words are not a crystal transparent and unchanging words. Words are the skin of living thought and may vary greatly in color or content according to circumstances and time in which they are used. To speak of mere words is like speaking of mere dynamite. Words can bruise and break hearts and minds, especially to the ones we love. Like I said, there are no black and blue marks, no broken bones, and most importantly, no prisons, bars for the offender who makes people feel bad. You know, the difference between the right word and the almost the right word is like the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. A word to the wise, which I was told as a musician too. Don't quit your day job and become a musician or poet. And this is very important too, talking about words. Hands that help are better than lips that pray. Actions do speak louder than words. And I have two more things to say here. What always remembers me and touches me is Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, and Tiny Tim, I'll paraphrase, as he says, "God bless us all, everyone." And the most important thing is, the most powerful word I ever heard, one of the most powerful words in the English language, is a word I got in the mail from the children who are suffering from cancer. And they simply, I'm not even going to say the word, I'll just show you the word they sent me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Warren. Next up is Vinnie Colon.
Hello. Thank you for the features. The features are wonderful. And thank you for having me here today. Just a quick announcement. I do an open mic poetry the first Tuesday in Rocky Point at the Green Space. So if you're interested in coming down and seeing a good feature, we have Jessica Payas this month. It's always the first Tuesday in Rocky Point. And we're looking for features too. So talk to me if you're interested. This poem is called Well Trodden. And it's in a form that I created myself called click syllabics. It's basically 5 stanzas with 4 lines per stanzas, 4 lines per stanza, and 9 syllables per line. So 4 times 5 times 9 is 180. Well trodden. We found a well-trodden path of sorts, used by smugglers and other cohorts. For years it remained undisturbed, lost. In the forest glade hidden by trees, the lane was shady and a thoroughfare for travelers, huddled in the moonlight, twice as dangerous in the daylight, and deadly in inclement weather. A well-trodden track, it had its secrets. Whispers were, it led to a railroad, but not the kind with wooden steel tracks. This convey was built upon their backs. Every branch broken, every footfall led us further into that black past. A nail on the tree held a lantern, illuminating, alerting us, guiding us safely throughout the thicket. This is why we protest and picket. No matter how painful the road home, it's easier born when not alone. Thank you.
Wonderful, Vinny. Next up is one of our founding fathers, Bill Batcher.
Okay, this is called Winter Prayer. Winter's days are cold and short, its nights long and dark. I want to hole up, snuggle, deep beneath covers I pray its winds cannot penetrate. Remain isolated, distance myself from others, even from myself. But as surely as snowflakes race each other from the sky, and moons wax and wane, I know spring will come. Days will warm, darkness will shrink its hold. Sit with me in the night, lie with me under my covers, wait with me for the dawn.
Thank you, Bill. I will turn it over to Claire, who will introduce 3 poets.
Okay, the very next people we will hear from in this order is first Gladys Henderson. Her photo won't be on, but you'll be able to hear her, followed by Megan Deutsch, and then Virginia Walker.
Thank you. Let me get my, if I'm not on, I'm sorry.
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, great. Thank
Yes.
you so much. I appreciate that. What a wonderful reading today. Just outrageous and filled with an understanding and a beauty and a sorrow at the same time. We have so much further to go. Offering. The water runs dark, almost oil-like when it runs down river towards the spillway. Small broken sticks, duckweed and minnows circle together in the whirlpool that gathers. It draws everything into it. All that enters spirals downward towards the river bottom. I take my seat on the rectangular cement dam. the side that is in the warm sun. Willows in bloom have reached the water. Their chartreuse leaves and slim stems have grown in just a week. Today, water rages through the spillway like a pint-sized Niagara. It sets the air ablaze with its mist, a taste of creation's first days. I come to hear the silence in the roar, that beautiful sound that drowns out fear. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask Megan if she can unmute.
Thank you. Great, powerful readings. This is called Our First Page. I want to trace a path, fingers humming with love down our story's spine, find our beginning, embrace how we became. We tell the tale so many times it feels like soft, well-loved leather. We met at a party, I almost didn't go. A book on the beach was far more appealing than loud music and people I barely knew. Was this our beginning? We were always moving towards this moment. Our moms met when I was still in the NICU. My mom uncertain about what it might be like to have a blind child. But when she saw you as a toddler jumping down the stairs with your brother, she knew all would be well. Though our parents lost touch, does this mean we began with our moms? Or did we begin with the doctors who saved both our lives, our bodies bursting into the world before they were ready? Or did we begin with our families deciding to live where they did? Since we can't touch the first page of our book, we'll keep flipping the pages, reveling in the texture of dreams that we built, and no, we'll never read the final line of our journey. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Megan. And I'm going to ask Virginia to please unmute.
I think I
There you
did.
are. You're
Yeah,
good.
my light just went out. I hope I can see this. First of all, wonderful reading. That's excellent. Okay. Exiting humanity. Kill the 4-year-old boy by slowly compressing his chest. Take the younger brother, 9 months old, and crush him too. Then dismember their small corpses while you all laugh. Return their bodies in fancy coffins, making a spectacle. Your fellow demons stand together in masked presentation. The body of the children's mother you ripped open. No sacrilege is too low for you. Hold her corpse as an insult to her family. Such duplicity in your prophet speak. You pseudo-men hide your faces from the world, and as a sideshow to punish a world looking for justice, plant bombs in buses, a manufactured applause for your alternative definition of civilization, and a threat of future action against the righteous rising against you. Homer, Virgil, Dante, and Milton tried to describe the worst of what a human could do in words to warn the future. We are made numb by CNN's colorful coverage.
Wow, that
Thank
was powerful, powerful Zoom reading, weren't they? Okay, back to this room. Next up is Diane Morelli. Diane, come back, come back, yay! Thank you. Today I'd like to read a poem that I called Swipe away. Next time you swipe onto a social media site and find an action-packed clip, punching and cursing, a soundbite, teenagers thugging in a fight on a New York City subway train. Resist the urge to let this scourge burn into your brain. You've watched it once, then hit replay, 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 replay. Down you slip, slam, bam, crash. You hit the bottom of the unhappily ever after rabbit hole, where you sit on your bruised rump and you harumph. The youth of America has gone insane. To that I say, swipe away. You're an adult. You should know better than to conclude society's screwed because you watched a few young girls enraged beating the bejesus out of one another. Take a good look at the leader of the gang. Pointy nails, swinging braids, shorty short shorts so tight. Now forget what you saw. Get it out of your head. Picture that girl instead. How she will be decades from now when she's wiser and older. See her, a doctor who cures cancer. Or if science isn't quite there yet, she could be that doctor's mother. Thank you. Oh my goodness, they just keep getting better and better. Next up is Wayne Barr.
There's a certain something that can happen in the city when there's enough snow to make everyone, almost everyone, stay home, and traffic stills, and something magical comes into probably the most hectic landscape in the world, or certainly one of them. So this poem is called February on 89th Street. The market on the corner is boasting daffodils and tulips. Hungry for bright colors, passerbys stop and admire. Frosted by yesterday's snowfall, the trees above smile down. Newly designed in two-tone costumes of snow white and winter gray. Outside on the sidewalk, children sling arms full of snow at each other, playfully trusting in the midwinter's moment. They scamper like little squirrels on the sleeping ground, which is not sleeping at all, but pulled back like an arrow preparing to reach out to its destination. The white-robed princess lies very still and is content, all the while waiting for the sun, golden prince that he can be, to deliver his first springtime kiss. There is something infinite about this silent, suspended moment that is auspiciously wise. For without our even knowing, foresightful February whispers to us enchantingly, cold winds snapping against our ears and the smell of snow clearing our heads. Yes, it's true. On that busy yesterday when the snow fell freely, time stopped. And in an instant, all that has been and everything that will ever be walked hand in hand to the altar of stillness.
Okay, before I introduce the next poet, I just want to give Bobby Brown fair warning that I will be calling on you to read a poem, I hope, at the end of the open mic. Okay, Bobby? You have a moment to think about it. Because you're not on the list. Next up, we have one of the mothers of Poetry Street who has a new book, Nina Yavel.
An incredible day. Beautiful, beautiful Tony and Chip on you blew me away. Totally blew me away. So I'm reading from my new book, which is really kind of weird because I don't have to run around looking for poems to read anymore. Now it's here. They're all here.
Tell us.
That's the cover. I painted it. Can I be two quickies? Really? Real quick.
I think the new book here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is called prayer. Can you hear me? Yes. My body sings, and from each branch the wind receives its bread and mouths the wine. We are praying, you and I, hallowed incantations to spirits resting beneath our breath, souls sharing the sanctity of flesh. Promised land. Elusive as light, frail as bone, bound by transgressions real and imaginary, the space, the border between you and me, a perilous rim, guarded by reason and punctured by instinct, a sacred ground where a loving God left us the breads of peace and forgiveness. This was once the promised land.
Thank you, dear Nina. Claire, back to you.
Okay, next up is Bob Hayes, who will be followed by Rick Spisak, the poet of Three Rivers, and then by Randy Fowler. Let's go to Bob.
I want to say thank you to the features and to Maggie and Claire and Chip. So this is called Rise Up as a Community. We all know a house divided cannot stand. So what can we do in today's turbulent land? What's so vitally needed is unity among the common man. So we must resolve to develop a positive plan. A new blueprint must be drawn to sow unity. Efforts must be undertaken by every community. As politicians try to drive us apart, we need to regroup and restart to ensure that might does not make right. Celebrating our community will yield a united reality. Thank you.
And, oh, great, you're unmuted. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you so much. An honor to be here. So many tremendous poets. The features were amazing, of course. I have two little pieces for you. I hope, in addition to the hard truths, there's some hope in there. The first piece is called Tap, Tap, Tap for Ahmad. My feet the roadway slap with spring, the joyous running brings, the knees, the ankle freeze, tap, 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 the road away does lap, tap, tap, tap. I have my course and down the road I force, each step adept I take, past trees and trucks I make, tap, 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 down roadways shining slap, away the noise is trapped, the gars, the jars, the snaps, tap, 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 the legs, the ankles, rankles, snap, the ways that momentum traps, tap, 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 the breeze, the trees, the calling birds, the flinging whap, tap, 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 leaves job and slob and grasp and freeing, fleeing hopes supposed, tap, 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 the miles disclose, tap, tap, the stiller tiller jars, the wounding static Mars, tap, 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 past lawns and sprinklers spawn the construction and all worn, tap, 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 here wind and water wills the fawns and thrills, the children at their play, the closing of the day, tap, 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 my feet absorb the shock where others only talk and stare and gawk, tap, 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 on my evening passions plot, tonight I'll visit Mabel and there around the table squeak and squawk, blam, blam, goddamn. A tribute to Ahmaud running in Georgia. And then this one, far more positive, although it refers to a crime that happened 40 years ago, it's sadly as true today. This is called a behaviorist perspective. The causes of racism. The troop or group, the clan's glad hand, the sign of 9, the grip in the dark, the posted mark informs the stable state of norms, remembering the frames of membrane games, brain disguises, shade your eyes in apple pies, it sizes the territory, the turf. Well, the good should. Our side of town, our group is right in the sight of good God's smile. Even sunlight reviles your kind outside the pure to lure with your kind's lazy, stupid stunts. A sparrow of a different hue could be torn and clove in two by a few of another blue hunt. The strength, bonding, unicellular life in multicellular strife. Responding, besiding, ties the atom so tight, minute, molecular might, and chooses in precise measure who you'll sleep with tonight. Beehives survive by tribes' trance. The queen's romance excludes the rude outsider, protects the provider, determines the writer of the queen's desire. Emboldened invaders reduce the chance for the tribe to advance. Social groups and bamboo shoots, baboon troops and fishy schools know who the foe is, when to go, who's the friend, where's the end. The rules used, training fools by gene and team wish, that's culture's dish. It keeps the Portuguese man of war banging on the door. It explains to the colony who'd hang on to and why. Cultural clash, like red ants and black as a reason to attack, is a common step to keep hep to good guys and bad. But isn't it sad how often the supportive social ties, the tools of molecular rules, can conceal the lack and leak of the social contract to the greater stack? The organs of your hand would be foolish to war or inflict harm on the arm. Could the leg force the knee to submit or flee? Could the brow to the forehead say, drop dead, be gone, amscray, and then in confusion sway against the neighbor's array? As this is to make a fist to relate the cultural trait, a boundary in this or any country, take Humpty Dumpty. He's really something to relate to the ground with a loud cracking sound. Unicellular or multicellular, in clothing and in motion, you're expressing the notion of your tribe. It doesn't hide, it wouldn't try. But membranes even say, if you lean over easy this way, together is stronger, lives happier longer. Cultural rifts needn't cause tiffs or express fists in pain what it is when they mean the support of us. They needn't bleed trust or force us to must a membrane's edgy thrust. But if you say it must, symbiosis is being, osmosis its meaning, surely you know this. There's no relief in grief. Let tribal libel cease. Extend the grace of space. The use of social bonding to unite is great, but even edges meet and act to attract the surging urge to merge. A behaviorist perspective to causes of racism. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Godspeed to us all. Brotherhood is what we need. Thank you.
Now I'm going to ask Randy to, good, he's unmuted.
All right. First, I just wanted to say I'm really trying to write something for Black History Month and really disappointed that I haven't been able to accomplish that because it's really important to me. I have 5 Black nieces and nephews, and I know the struggles that they've shared with me. So anyway, this is called Scratch Vinyl. It's the first time that I've ever had a character in my head. My daughter, who's 19, was broken up with, and yet the guy was a pretty cool guy, but I just imagined what it would be like if the person wasn't like that. So it's called Scratch Vinyl. Why declare you love me when you lacerate my heart? Why test me with temptations that shove me into shame? Why show me passion after you've stung my soul? Why ration your affection like it's a collection of rare records? I realize too late you're a damaged blues album, only playing tortured tunes that rupture our relationship. I'm the needle on an old vinyl that can't help but track the scratches, despite the skipping. I'm learning to choose better albums, to follow the groove on a new record that plays a sweet melody. Poem.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Next up from this room is our very own Susan Semmerhand. I want to thank the readers, first of all, for those powerful readings of truthful, painful words. So thank you. I didn't bring anything of my own, but because it's Black History Month, I wanted to bring a reading from Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets. And this one I'm sure you've all heard. Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tride me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wonderfully clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream. I am the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise. That's a beauty. Next up is Linda Bullock.
Good afternoon. Yeah. For whom the bell tolls. Show me a movie with historic notes, that remind me of lesser days. Read me a poem of one who suffered and survived those lesser days. Sing me a song of how many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man. Show me images of those mistreated at the hand of another man. It's important to remember from whence we have come. Let each generation know that theirs is not the beginning, but the continuation of what was long begun. Strong foundations have been laid and amazing strides have been made, from astrophysics to the straightening comb. There are no limits to what this once thought feeble brain can do. Show me a movie with historic notes that remind me of lesser days. Now you can see how far we have come in just so many ways. Walk in my shoes for a day and your feet will be sore. Walk in my shoes for generations and your feet will be deformed. Let me try on your shoes? No thanks, I'll fashion my own. And they will be comfortable for my hammer toes, bunions, and corns. The remembrance of those lesser days is not just for those who suffered. The remembrance of those lesser days is also for those who allowed the suffering. How long? How many roads? When will you realize for whom the bell tolls? It tolls for thee.
Thank you, Linda. Next up is Kathy Donnelly, our own Kathy Donnelly.
Always worth this long drive, always. So I always start with saying thank you to Maggie, Chip, and Claire, wherever Claire is, for putting this marvelous thing together with a Zoom like this. You can see everybody. And secondly, our three readers, Tony, Diane, and Chip, again. Fantastic, worth every mile. So I have this old poem and lots of notes on it, but here goes. It's called Bailouts During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Somewhere, everywhere, while we endured the foreclosures, layoffs by the millions, the closing of businesses, schools, even hospitals, there were old men sipping cognac and sweet liqueurs, in bathrobes and floppy slippers, into evening hours, knowing this was their time, sliding pieces around the chessboard, aware of what moves to make first and how fast. As we, the people, watched and waited, feeling stymied, helpless, outraged. History repeats itself. Maybe this time it won't be as bad as a virus.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Claire, do we have anybody else?
Not from Zoom this week, this month.
Okay, then we'll continue in the room with the very wonderful Pramila Venkataswara.
It's been wonderful to hear all the features and some of the wonderful Zoom poets and poets over here. And I was wondering what to read for Black History Month. And I have three choices and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to read. So I'm going to read you a ghazal. A ghazal is basically couplets. And the last word of the second line of each couplet rhymes, is the same word. And then the second last word of the second line rhymes all the way through. So that's the, ghazal form. And so this one is called Ghazal for Mothers Who Have Lost Their Children to Police Brutality. And the epigraph is from Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. And it says, "As a mother, I hear you cry." And one of the references in the poem is to Sita. And Sita in Indian mythology is the heroine of the Ramayana. And the earth opens up to rescue her. So the earth is the earth mother. So Sita is the daughter of Mother Earth. So that's a reference. Anyway, here goes. Ghazal for mothers who have lost their children to police brutality. When the law tested Sita, setting her ablaze to judge if she'll fall, the earth raged. Enough. You men with illusory metal, fall. Today, will Mother Earth embrace you as you claim your truth? Delusion breaks as you plunge through air, nothing to stop your fatal fall. Mothers endure their children's agony as bullets rip skin and sinew, but mothers' cries of stop cannot break children's cruel fall. I join your cry, mothers, as you stand bereft, justice long overdue. Your words cut metal. You fling the moon and battle nightfall. You care for every inch of your children, skin, bone, tissue. Their moral fiber you embroider with care to repel any fall. Police unabashed snatch your kin as though you owe dues. Adding to their score, they think no peril can befall. The giant law, armed and fattened with immunity's glue, their mothers too witness and endure a triple fall. Mothers, buck up, let's shake off our blues and dismantle laws that thrive on our racial fall. Thank you.
Gorgeous, Pramila. I'm going to read a poem. It's not a Black History poem, but it's a poem about food. It was recently, last month, Hiram LaRue featured here and encouraged us to write poems about empty stomachs. And so I wrote this poem, and it's on his website, which is X Hunger. It's a wonderful website, a wonderful cause. I Was a Lucky One is the name of this poem. My mother cooked naively tuna casserole, pigs in blankets, meatloaf. Once I moved to the city, I mocked her skill to take a perfectly good roast beef and turn it into a small black rock. My parents worked hard to feed us. They offered love, support, education, and countless meals. I would trade the organic vegetables and cereals I am privileged to eat to spend an hour chewing my mother's Sunday roast. Food was available, plentiful, enough to fill a stomach, healthy enough to grow me. I'm just going to give a plug for something I'm doing next Saturday at the Quag Wildlife Refuge at 4 o'clock on next Saturday. It's a poetry circle. I encourage you to come and sit in the circle, bring a poem of your own or a poem by somebody else. There will be refreshments. If you have grandchildren or children, please bring them. It's a wonderful family occasion and it's free. I'm going to bring up our co-founder now to read a poem. His name is Bubby Brown. Wow.
I love this place. And I think I've gotten to look at it like a good book. And with the features and everybody coming up and reading their poetry, it's like a good book. And every month is a new page. And I can't wait until the next month to see what that next page is going to reveal. Maggie, okay. I'm going to do a poem that I've done before many times. And one of my friends, Terry Muse, once told me, it doesn't matter how many times you do a poem, it's always going to be new to somebody in the room. This poem is written and dedicated to that endangered species, the African-American male, who has given his life in wars for this land in disproportionate numbers, who is incarcerated in the prisons of this land in disproportionate numbers, and who is imprisoned in his mind by illegal controlled substances in this land in disproportionate numbers, allegedly. It's entitled, It's Time. It's time. The time for revenge and blame is long past. Let's look to the future anew. God has led us safely thus far. Now it's time to do our just due. It's time for my young brothers to stand tall with pride and grace and be a living hero to some small child of this proud race. At times, standing tall can be a problem. When the fashion plate decrees, it's cool to shuffle with your hands in your pockets and your pants down to your knees. It's time for somebody's daddy to take that child in hand and explain that the teenage part of life is basic training to being a man. It's time to get educated. Forget your Xbox, pick up a book, and then go outside and practice your dribble and your running fadeaway hook. I know we're athletically inclined, fine-tuned when properly trained, but those muscles will fade like a summer sun, so you'd better fine-tune your brain. It's time, my brother, to sit back and take stock of the precious gems and jewels and such we have in our jewelry box. I'm not talking about rubies or diamonds, pearls or precious others. I'm talking wives, sisters, daughters, nieces, girlfriends, and most of all, our mothers. They are the backbone of this heritage, worth more than a king's ransom in coins. And we, the male gender of this race, are mere droppings from their loins. It's time to tell the media, I am not the person that they portray. From digging ditches to chairman of the board, I work each and every day. It's time to tell America, we're not all rapists, hoodlums, and thugs. We're not all wife and child abusers, and we're not all pushing drugs. Question. Billions are made from that illegal trade, a fact well understood. But tell me, are there any millionaire dealers in your neighborhood? It's time to look to the future. The future lies ahead. Only look back to check your references or to pay homage to your dead. It's time for love, my brother. For love, my brother, it's time. Love, love, everlasting love. Love of me and love of mine. It's time. It's time.
I was hoping you would do that poem. What a bunch of open micers. Oh my God. We will now bring each feature back to repeat a poem. Anthony, are you ready?
I just want to say again, I am so thrilled to been asked and to feature with Chip and Diane and to hear all of you guys. This is wonderful. So the poem I just want to finish with is called Rambling Grace. It's a prayer of thanks. Started out as a kind of a prayer of my meal and then kind of evolved. So go from there. And it starts with a quote by Meister Eckhart. If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. A rambling grace. Good Lord, we give you thanks for the chopped clams so miraculously canned in the brine of their own juices. We thank you for the linguine patiently air-dried, boxed and labeled with suggested cooking times for perfect al dente. Thanks also for the pecorino romano, graded and packaged in moisture-proof glossy Ziploc bags, thousands of them each, weighing exactly 16 ounces on refrigerated shelves throughout this great country. We thank you for recycling instructions that make us feel confused and guilty, for our after-shower deodorants and antiperspirants, for the faceless migrants and itinerants we recognize in mirrors and family scrapbooks. We thank you, Lord, for backyard fences that keep neighbors neighborly, for wool blankets and park benches that remind us we're not yet home. We thank you for the helpless that make us feel helpful, for the penniless sundry and for the hungry, yes, even for the coiffured and the chauffeured, but especially for the lowly workers whose gifts are ignored. We thank you for pristine winding roads we see on TV that don't really exist, for traffic congestion to help us meditate, and for weed-free manicured lawns. Thank you, God, for endlessly spawned Geico commercials that play within the rectangles of our minds, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen, O Lord. Bless all who seek but do not find. Bless the consumers consumed by the satisfaction they are chasing. Thank you, Lord, for the genuine article, for holy relics and traces of DNA particles that help us to connect the dots of our divine connectedness between the races and the segregated places and the neighborhoods on both sides of the track.
Thank you, Tony. Oh my goodness. Okay, Diane, are you ready?
Yes. Thank you again, everyone. The title is If I Were a Book, Would I Be Banned? If I were a book, would I be banned? Of course I'd be banned. Not at first, but eventually. I would couch my comments in a lullaby, a swing-a-by, or three blind rodents, almost any kitty song, because mine enemy isn't right. Of course I'd be banned. Not at first, but eventually. The audiobook would follow the melody of a collage of favorite American tunes thus far allowed and not yet. Of course I'd be banned. Not at first, but eventually. Because I wouldn't sing it. I'd be a marked, masked singer, wear gloves, and utilize a voice change attachment so that you couldn't tell it's me even upon my speaking voice. Of course I'd be banned, but eventually, not at first, because my nom de plume would be divulged by angry someone I trusted who could be bought off with a flight ticket to the moon. And I don't mean piloted by Ralph via Cramden Airlines. Of course I'd be banned because I'm not going to change. Just the circumstances allowing my free speech taking on another form. DMW. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. I loved it. And to conclude our afternoon, we will have one more poem from Chip Williford, who will then end the afternoon for us. Come back next month.
Actually, I will be bringing you back, Maggie, so you can tell us about the features next month. Once again, thank you so much, Diane, for your wonderful poetry, and Tony, really appreciate you. And you're selling your book. You have books here? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Camilla. It's so good to see you. And all of you here, Susan and Bubby, I want to be like you when I grow up. Tick tock. What of our lives would we make if we only knew how many breaths we had left to take? With each tick of the clock we survive is another tick we should rejoice for being alive. If we only knew how many more breaths we had left to take, of what of our lives and of our legacies would we make? To love, to give, and to share the light, to embrace another chance to make things right. To how many will we say, I'm sorry? To whom will we choose to forgive? How different would our life choices be if we only knew? Maybe we wouldn't take our blessings for granted or easily forget those who helped us in our journey, nor would we neglect to care for the seeds we planted. Of what of our lives and our legacy would we make if we only knew how many breaths we had left to take? What lessons did we learn? Who would we want to keep close? From whom would we refrain? What would we change, give up, lose, and burn? How will we choose which passions are still worth the yearn? How would we spend our time? Where will we go? Truth is, we may never know. Are you so confident that you can say each second you remain without regrets, doubt, and shame, you would continue to live your life the same? Tick tock. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear it one more time for the features for the open mic for Poetry Street. Next month, our own Nina Yavel will be reading from her new book. Bill Batcher will be featuring, and Sarah Bullock, a relation. Okay, we'll see you here next month. I hope all of you come back.